We've covered erosion and nutrient runoff a lot on this channel, but the opposite problem isn't something that gets talked about enough: compaction. Now, you might think that soil compaction means a whole lot of clay and just causes a great deal of effort to turn over to break up all those clumps, but it's a little more complicated than that, and not nearly as easy to absolve by running a tractor over it. Let's explain. Soil compaction, simply put, means that soil is compressed so much that the particles that make up the soil are pressed into a smaller volume. This leads to less pore space where water and air is usually stored. Yes, this does happen a lot in clay soils, but it's an even bigger headache when that compaction affects dry soil. The ground becomes solid as rock, and even big machinery isn't very effective at breaking it up. There just isn't enough air or moisture to break nutrients down and allow for ventilation. And obviously, your crop's roots just can't extend through all that resistance, leading to stunted growth or just plain dying after they have exerted all their energy laboring to get some room to spread out. If you're unsure of how big of a problem you have on your hands, purchasing a soil compaction gauge will tell you exactly what you need to know. Rule of thumb for a good ratio is 50% solids and 50% air and water. Gauges range wildly in price, depending on how big the unit is and what brand you're getting, so sourcing it secondhand might be the best option. But eyeballing the situation works just as well. Pick up a spade and have a look for yourself, and you'll definitely see the effect it has on anything you try to plant there. You can employ the help of machinery, but that's going to be incredibly hard on your pocket. Besides, even if the big guns manage to get your ground halfway usable, you'll just end up killing what little microbial life that managed to stay alive under those inhospitable conditions, just leading to yet another problem that you'll need to fix. And every study out there has proven that no-till soils resist compaction so much better in the long term. Or you can use a handful of crops that thrive in these conditions. They won't just grow, they'll even solve the problem for you, without all that labor and money spent from you. And if you choose the right ones, it can even make you a profit and feed you and your livestock. Here are a few of those crops. Oats are the easiest, no-nonsense way to prep hard soil over winter with the least amount of effort. Planting it in September will give you just enough time to harvest from them before winter rolls in and kills the lot off. Leave it right there in the field while the snow wears itself out. Usually, when the snowmelt starts getting underway, all that water just exacerbates the compaction even more. But with the oats' roots now embedded in the ground, they'll create root pockets that snake all over the place. You can pull the last stems up by hand, ripping up and aerating the soil, or just plant right over it. Chances are that those roots will have rotted away by spring anyway, leaving behind the now empty root lines for the new growth to move their own roots into. Oats isn't the perfect crop, and it won't do much good if you have extreme compaction issues, but for minor or beginning stage compaction, they'll do the job just fine. We'll be focusing on red clover specifically for this segment, though almost all of the clover species are perfectly content to grow in inhospitable soils that they'll add value of their own to. But red clover has the benefit of being a perennial, and their roots go deeper than their counterparts do. Sow a field, let your rotational grazers come by to munch them down, and then allow them to recover, just to repeat the process again when the next rotation comes around. For the next 3 years, that clover is going to spread and multiply, adding so many roots and offshoots beneath the ground that by the time their 3-year lifespan is over, whatever compaction you had will be a problem of the past. If your grazers have a habit of ripping out the plant, roots and all, you can always mow it down and feed it to your livestock separately. The key here is to keep those roots in the ground for the longest amount of time possible, letting them do their work while they feed the animals on your farm. Radishes are going to be the quickest solution that you can ask for, but we're not talking about the teeny tiny red bulbs that are meant for salads. No. You want the big stuff. Green meat, daikon, Saccharojima mammoth, horseradish, those are the kinds of radishes you'll be looking for. You can plant them on their own, or even better, intercrop them in between other helper crops. Radishes, when they're pulled out, create literal caverns in the soil, and their fine side roots make more pockets for aeration than any other crop. They can feed your household and your livestock. Since you'll be leaving them in a little longer for optimal growth, most of them will probably get a little fibrous for human consumption, and you'll be surprised at how big they can get before that's even a problem. And if you have hogs, just let them loose on the field and have them do the work for you while they're feeding themselves. Chances are that if your soil's compacted, then it's already pretty damaged and lacking in nutrients, so it's best to seek out the grasses and cereal that are well adapted to growing in hostile conditions. Sorghum, rye, oats, and wheat are all pretty hardy. You won't get great harvests right out of the gate, but by continuously planting a live crop in that depleted soil, you'll be loosening it up bit by bit, giving it more nutrients to hold on to and building up the microbial presence that you need. Slowly, after every season, you'll see the improvement and the yield amounts go up. You can speed the process up somewhat by intercropping as much variety as possible, maybe add a few radishes to the mix, and throwing manure right on top every now and then. And it's not like the first round will be completely useless for you. Choose edible crops that animals can eat. You might have to be selective when it comes to bovine and horses' digestive tracts, but your pigs, goats, chickens, and sheep won't be too bothered with sensitive stomachs, and they'll be healthier with more nutritional variation anyway. But if you prefer to go the monocrop route, then alfalfa will be your best bet. Almost all of alfalfa's variations are incredibly hardy and drought-resistant. Their versatility in animal feed and their ability to grow with the least amount of care and water is what drives up their value. You'll never have a shortage in your customer base. Alfalfa is a perennial. Once they put down their roots, you'll only have to throw a bit of manure in the field every now and then, and they'll do the rest of the work for you. By the time their 3 to 5 years in the field is over, pulling them out will expose nutrient-dense, loose and fluffy soil that's got all of the bugs and worms you need for the next sowing to thrive. But at least this way, you'll be guaranteed a permanent stream of income while you wait for the ground to become appropriate for whatever other crop you wanted to plant there originally. Don't be surprised if you end up going back to alfalfa. Seriously, there's never enough on the market, and you might find that it's such a lucrative stream of income that you don't want to lose it. Weeds that are native to your area will always be the best suited for your conditions, and they don't have to just take up empty space if you're choosing varieties that are edible. Again, you'll be using these fields as animal feed or grazing grounds. Farmers will be happy to rent out the space if they can feed their livestock on it, and that livestock will be leaving behind all of the droppings necessary for the next season's seeds. The animals will till the soil over for you too, and if you've got hogs running, they'll probably do a better job than the machines will anyway. It's all about having a mixed bag of plants and animals. The more variation, the healthier your soil will be. Pests like hairy vetch, clover, comfrey, dandelion, goosegrass, nettle, the list is endless, and you can quite literally just have to walk into an undeveloped patch of land with a can and collect all of the seeds you could possibly want in a single afternoon completely for free. Weeds' roots go the deepest, they need the least care, and they're already perfectly adapted to grow on your farm. We cannot stress just how effective this is. Sow and let your animals graze to their heart's content. Within 2 years, that patch of land won't be recognizable. And if you want to go a step further to be economical, water the space with gray water, or simply rely on the animals' watering troughs to do it for you. You'll just need to move their watering systems around every few days to disperse the water a little more evenly. Finally, just before you want to put down a crop, let those hogs run through it one last time. They'll tear up any leftover roots in a few days, leaving you with the best aerated soil just waiting to nurture a field of crops. At the end of the day, whether you're dealing with compacted soil, erosion, pollutant runoff, name the problem, there's probably going to be a natural solution that not only fixes the problem, it's going to fix it for the long term and for much cheaper than any amount of factory-made fertilizer or machinery possibly could. There's just no overnight solution. Sure, some are faster than others, but if you want to solve it and do so for the foreseeable future, then the only way to go is to have living, growing organisms do it for you. And yes, you can absolutely profit from the solution itself, or at the very least, feed your animals. Now, we leave off with a question. What crops have you, our viewers, used when faced with compacted soil, and how did it work out for you? You know how much we appreciate hearing the ingenious ways that the people on the ground and in the field have come up with to solve even the most challenging problems. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and to keep that notification bell on so you don't miss the next upload from the Regenerative Farmers team. Bye!